Hi, I'm Holly Pike. If you'd like a trial of the Generation software that I use for digitizing, please visit trygenerations.com. This video is a recording of a live video I did for my previous students. You may hear references to You Can Digitize or YCD. That's my old website that is now closed. My new website is digitizingschool.com. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up.
We're going to be doing a quick lace, basically, and then we'll expand on that just a little bit. The basics of making a quick lace, like a coaster or something like that, is starting off with your layers and putting something around it to hold everything together. So I'm going to start out, I'm going to choose my circle tool. And this is just going to be a quick coaster. Anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. So I made my circle. I'm going to drop my tool. And I'm going to change it a different color because that color is just awful and hard to see. We're going to go into 3D view. So we have our circle to start with. This is our first layer, and we're going to make our changes to it right away. So I right-click on it and go to my stitch settings. And I do not want underlay on this. And I'm going to go into my complex tab, and we're going to reduce the density on this. We want this to be really open because we're going to put down 4 layers to make our base. So I am going to do about a 2.5 density on this and click enter. And here's our first base. It still looks a little heavy. How big is this thing here? Well, it's a little over. I think we'll make that. I'm going to right click again, go back into my stitch settings, and I'm going to loosen that up to about a 3.5. You want to see some space in between there when you're doing this. So now we have our first layer, and we're going to copy and paste this 3 more times. So I have it selected. I'm going to copy and paste, and I'm going to right click on the top one. And we're going to change our angle. We want to go opposite angles for these 2 layers. So we'll switch this one this way, see if I went far enough. That's a little too far. Bring this up full screen so I can see what I'm doing better. Kind of want this first layer to make a square. And I'm making diamonds. There we go, that's a little better. So then we'll take this layer, we'll copy and paste one more time. We're going to select it, and then we want to crisscross one more time. Got it this way, copy and paste one more time. Select it, and change our angle one more time. We want our angles going north, south, east, and west. I'm doing a little odder than that, but those still look a little bit heavy to me. So I'm going to select all of them. I have bottom one selected. I'm going to hold my shift key and click on the top one. That selects everything in my film strip over here. And then I can change my density down on the bottom here also. So I'm going to take that up to 4. Open it up just a little bit more. Give it a little bit more of a lacy look. There we go. That's a little bit better. So this is our lace base. This is to make a quick lace design. This is where we want to start. I'm going to go back out to normal view. And now to finish this off, what we need to do is select, I usually select my bottom circle. I'm going to right click on that and create outline from area edges. And we're going to use a satin border, and we want it on the outside. And I think for a width, I'm going to use about a 1.5 and click OK. Generate, and that gives us our satin border. Now we can go into our stitch properties. You can either right click, go to stitch properties, or else you can hit your space bar. That'll take you there also. We want to kind of look at what the underlay is on this, because this is what's going to hold all our stitching together when that stabilizer rinses out. We have a zigzag under here, and I also like to put a center run under there just to make sure. So to add that to the zigzag, we're going to click so it's highlighted, and then the arrows light up here. So we can click on that arrow and it moves it in there, and click OK. So now we have our coaster that you can stitch this out on a layer of wash away stabilizer, the fabric-y type one, not the plastic type one, and stitch it out, rinse that away, and this will stay together for you. Show the settings for the border again. Okay, the settings for the border. I have my line, my satin width is set at 1.5. And then I have my regular density of 0.40. Those are the settings that I use for the satin border. And this takes experimenting. You might like a little wider border with your design, or I don't think I would go any thinner than something like this. Okay. Another question is why I didn't use smooth edges on my circle. Smooth edges put a lot of stitches around that outside, and that can be a good thing and a bad thing. I've never found that I have to have that many stitches right on that edge, especially if I'm using a thinner outside border. I don't want that to get too bulky, and I find that just using the regular setting, everything holds together good. Can I change the colors of each section? Sure. Okay, we'll do a dark red on the bottom. The second one, we'll do blue. And I wasn't perfect on doing my angles here. We'll do a green. And then I have the pink and the pink outside border. Does that help? So you can see. A question, why do you use the fabric type stabilizer instead of the plastic? The WSS plastic is very thin, and doing the satin, you know, it would probably hold up good for your layers, but once you start stitching that outside satin border, it's going to perforate that edge so much that this may pull away from your stabilizer, and you know, just fall right out of the middle of the stabilizer before you're done stitching it. It's not, okay, someone is asking that it's not a good idea to use smooth borders. You could probably use the smooth borders for a layer or two, but I just feel that it gets too bulky around that edge to use the smooth edges all the way around it for 4 layers. Okay, the type of stabilizer that I would use for something like this would be Aqua Magic or H2O Gone. It's more of a fabric-y type stabilizer that totally rinses away when you put it in water. There are a lot of different types. Yes. Can you raise the density for a looser look? Yes, you could. You can open it up. We're going to be doing, or I'm going to be doing a design on top of this. So then I want a little tighter density to hold my stitches that I'm going to put on top of it. If you were going to do something around the outside edge and not put anything in the middle and wanted a lacier look, you could open that density up more. We could take these, select them, hold my shift, and we could open that up to, let's try 5 and see what that looks like. It gives it a lighter, you can see through it better look. Okay, we'll move on from here. I'm going to get rid of this for now, and I'm going to bring in some artwork. So I'm going to bring this in, Images Template. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to make this for a 4x4 hoop. So I like to do 95. Shift and plus to darken my artwork a little so I can see it a little better. And this is what we're going to work on here. So this design has a couple of different things in it. We have somewhat of a solid center with a design on the top of it. And we have bars along the outside and a neat scalloped border. There's a couple of different ways we could do it. This I would do my lace base around the center, and I would do the whole background before I would do my flower. So I'll work through getting my base done and show you how to work on these bars and do this part of making lace, which it takes time, but it's really fairly simple. So instead of just going all the way around this circle, I'm going to grab my circle tool and make a circle that's about that size. I'm going to drop my tool, get rid of that awful color. Yeah, that's better. I'm going to go out of 3D so I can see what I'm doing. Make it just a little bit bigger. I want this circle to pretty much come, if I'm following the artwork here, I want it to pretty much come to the edges of my artwork for that inner circle. There we go. Now I'm happy. I'm kind of finicky that way sometimes. And I'm going to hit my space bar. Whoops. My space bar. Get rid of my underlay. And change my density. Because I'm going to put a design on top of this, I don't want to go too light with it. So I'm going to do 3.5. And just to keep track of what I'm doing, I'm going to start at the top with my angle. And I don't want to go straight up and down. That's one thing you should try to avoid, going straight up and down. When you're going straight up and down or straight across, you get more pull with your fabric. So I just go a little bit off. I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to go the other way with it, opposite direction. Copy and paste. Select that one. Then I'm going to kind of go in the middle. And one more time. And we'll go down this way. Okay, now we have our lace base to work with. We'll do a quick save here. Thank you, Patty. Now we have a couple of choices. I'm going to grab my pen here. Okay, I want this to be a satin border. I want this to be a satin border. And not quite sure what I want to do with this yet. I want to show you a couple of pictures. We need to do these and these. So we want to try and do this with the least jump stitches. We want to be able to do this middle section and just keep moving without having to jump, which is not good in lace because jump stitches always show in the back and can make a mess. So I start with my center, and then I would probably want to do this first row of bars all the way around. When I'm doing bars like this, I like to have something to connect them to, so to say, when I'm making them. So first thing I will probably do is make a circle all the way around here. So as I'm making these bars, I will do one row. I go over that line just a little bit. We're going to travel. We're going to go back down. We're going to travel, go back up, travel. We'll do that all the way around. And that'll be the first thing that we want to do as we're working on this design. So we'll get back out of here and get started with that. Okay, we're in and out here. So I'm going to move my out just a little bit so I'm right at that bar. I'm going to go up to 400. And I'm going to pick my freehand line tool. And I'm just doing a single run here. Oh, I'm going to escape. I'm going to back out for just a second because I want to make a circle that I'm going to work over. I forgot about that. I'm going to select my circle tool, and I'm going to go over into this stitch properties box, and I'm going to click on that. It always comes in as complex fill. That's the default. But I don't want it to be a complex fill. I want it to be, oh no, we want to click on area because I want it to be a line. I just want a single run, and that's what I have here then. So if I click on there, I could choose the triple or double run, but I just want a single run. So then I'm going to make my circle, escape, control delete that extra one that I stuck in there, and get it lined up here. It's kind of big. Get it somewhat centered. There. Okay, now we've got something to work off of, and I'm going to leave it that dark color so you can see on top of the yellow what I'm doing. So we'll go back up to 400, and I know we left off here. So now I'm going to select my line tool, and I'm going to start going around my design. You want to start, I'm going to use the inside of this dark yellow line as my guide because I want to make sure that I'm getting into my lace base a little bit so this is catching on something. So, and I want to come over the line on the outside just a little bit, so we're catching that. And we want to do just one complete line in between here because we'll be changing. This will be our run now. We want to follow that center line, get to the middle here, stop, start a new line, and go in. It's a little tedious because there's especially that outside border. You want to start and stop in the same place. Make sure you go over that outside line. And I like to go a little ways. When I'm doing a lot like this, I'm going to drop my tool here. Now, I've got to start here, and I know that these center ones, I'm going to all want to be satin border. So I like to go through before I get too many in my film strip and then start grabbing the wrong ones. And I'm going to grab them and change them to a satin border right away. So I've got one selected. I'm going to hold my control key, and I'm just going to select the rest of these that I have drawn. And I'm going to go down to the stitch type here. And for now, I'm just going to change them to a satin border. I'm not going to change any of the settings on them yet. But now I can distinguish them in the film strip so I know what's my satin border and what are my runs, my travel stitches. So I'm going to just highlight my bottom one so I can see where my out was. And pick up my line tool again. And keep moving along. It's a little high. You can always hit backstitch or backspace if you don't like the point that you put down. Start over again. Oop, got away from me there. Okay, now we've made it all the way around. And I'm going to drop my tool. We'll go back and select the rest of those and change them to the satin border. Oops. Going to have to control delete that because you can see I got it all on one piece. I don't want it in one piece. So there we go. Okay. Okay. Just gonna I'm going to hit my space bar this time, and I'm going to scroll over and make them a satin border. Click OK. So now we have all of our pieces for that into a satin border. One trick that I learned when I'm just have the satin borders like this is I want to select all of those. I'm going to go down here to select and select all satin borders. So I have them all selected now, and I can change my settings on them all at one time. So I'm going to go back into my stitch properties, and I know I don't want them as fat as they are. And through trial and error for this design, I did a lot of stitch outs on this design. I found that I liked 0.9 for this set of bars, and I liked that for a density also. I'm going to click OK. We'll go into 3D, and you can see kind of what that looks like so far. Any questions on how I went through and did that? One bit of advice that I got from Lorraine when she was showing us at one of our team meetings how she does lace, she likes to go up quite a bit and goes through each frame. Get down here where we started. To make sure, I think she does this in the edit outline view, and in the outline mode, you can get to it there, or else with your F4 on your keyboard. And she likes to go through and make sure that these are lining up. So she starts with 1, and you can use your arrow key to go down and just watch your endpoints. Make sure they're pretty much stacked on each other. You don't want anything where, you know, this one would be way over here. That can cause a little bit of a jump, and it might be enough to make your machine stop and tie a knot before it moves on to the next piece. So if you have them, oops, get rid of that one. If you have them as close as possible, your machine is just going to move smoothly into the next piece. Every other one on the inside, there is nothing. Oh, I know what you mean. Okay, we'll go back into 3D view so you can because we're going up and down and around, we're just concentrating right now on these center bars. That's why there's nothing in between here. Does that make sense, Patty? Okay. Okay, so we have this part done, and we need to decide yes but no, it makes sense. You'll see, we just needed to put these lines in here to travel because we don't want jump stitches. But you could travel and then move all your ins and outs to the inside, and then you'd have lines all the way around, but we just are going up and down all the way around. So now we're this far. Let's get to the bottom so I can see where we left off. We left off right here. Our in is here, our out is here. We know we're going to want a satin border all the way around here. So I'm going to create that right away, and then we'll have that part done. We can move into the next area. So I'm going to select this top layer, right click, create an outline from area edges. I have my satin border is selected. I want to make that border a little bit heavier so it catches everything. And I think I'm going to make it about a 2 instead of a 1. I'm going to click OK, generate, and there's our satin border. Now that's holding our 4 layers together, and it's holding the bottom half of our bars. So that's all covered. Always got to make sure you have something holding everything together. So our out was here on our last bar. Our in is here on our border. Now we need to get to this next layer. We could do a jump, but we came out here with our satin border. I didn't believe this, but Lorraine showed me, and it really does work. I'm going to pick up my line tool, and right where my satin border is coming out, I'm going to go straight up over the top of this bar. We'll click enter. And once that stitch is out, you're thinking, oh no, you're putting that on top of a satin stitch. That's going to look awful. In the whole scheme of things, it blends in and you don't even notice, and you avoid a jump stitch. So now we're back up to the top here, and we need to decide what we're going to do next. I'm going to do a quick save here. Whoops, drop my tool. Save this quick, and now this scallop border is going to come in play a little bit. We need to kind of decide what we might do with that. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures here. Here's the one that we're working on right now. What I did with this one was to build another quick lace base and then put a little satin border around the edge of it. I really, really wanted to do this whole scallop thing in satin, but this is what I ran into when I tried doing this. This is one of my test designs. Trying to do a satin border that's right on the outside edge of your lace that's too wide, you end up with this little feathery thing after you rinse out your stabilizer. And I could not find a setting that I liked to avoid that. When you get, I would say, past probably 3 on your, if you tried to make this a width of, a width of 3, it's just, it gets to be too much. 2 is about good without getting that rumply thing in there. A double satin border. No, I did not try that. That would be a possibility to do something like that. So, next thing I think we will work on, the border will basically be the last thing we do. We could just do a plain satin border, kind of like we have here, or I'll show you how I did the one that I did, or I have one more technique that is a little more work but looks really neat too. So from this area, I've got a run here. I'm going to pick up my circle tool. I want to get a circle around the outside edge of these bars. I tried the edge underlay, Janet, and I still ended up with that feathery look. The only way I thought I could get around it might be to put a run around the edge. So, edge underlay, that would be, let me drop my tool here. We'll select this piece of satin here. I'll go into the stitch settings, and if you go into your underlay tab, you have the edge underlay, which puts a edge run on each side of your satin. Does that answer your question there? Okay, so I'm going to do my circle. I'm going to change my type so it does it align right away. And escape and adjust it. Be a little bigger. Okay, you can always use your to move stuff just a little bit here and there. Okay, so our line up was here. We're going to make one more line. Whoops, grab my line tool. And I'm going to go straight up here. So now I'm going to drop this tool, and I want to switch these around because we should have probably just made this one big line from our satin border straight up to here. Now we'll basically do the same thing that we did for our inner bars. We're going to do that for these other bars. So we're going to go back up to 400. We left out here. I'm going to get out of 3D. I'm going to pick up my line tool, and I'm going to go around the other way this time. It's kind of tedious, but that's what lace is. You kind of line these ones up here. Whoops. Wishful thinking that I could just jump across and skip some of these in here. Once you get going and get a good rhythm, try not to go too fast so you're keeping things straight, you can move right along. Whoops, forgot to do my travel. And I would probably take a little more care when I was doing this. Make sure my lines were a little straighter, and some of these are a little odd distances between. I would maybe take that into a little more account and try and even them out just a little bit. Artwork isn't always perfect. Okay, take a little break here from that. Drop my tool. And we have one of the bars. So I'm just going to go through my film strip this time and select my bars. And I know it's going to be every other one. This is why I should do this a little more often, because then you don't have to go through and grab quite so many at a time. Oops. Okay, that should be all of them. Go back up to full screen, and I'm just going to change those to my satin border. And they're all very fat. While I have them selected, I'm going to go ahead and go into my stitch properties, and I'm going to change the width of them right away. And I'll probably do them the same as I did the first row of bars, 2.9, and I'm going to go in and change the density a little bit again to 0.9, just to lighten it up a little bit. So I saw we had something strange going on in that area there. And we've got a funky point going on there. I'm going to get a little closer up and see. I'm going to select that. Because you can see I got a little hook in my line here. That's what's giving it that funny look. So I'm going to right click on it, and then go into edit outline mode. I'm going to right click on that point and I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to click on the next one, and you can see it's going back and forth like that. We want it to go up and down. So I'm going to grab that little arrow and turn it around. Grab this arrow and turn it up and down. We're going to move. Oh, I hate editing points because I get too many of them. They multiply. If you get We really only need 2 points here, one at the beginning and one at the end. So there we go. Now we're down to just 2 points. We're going to move this arrow around, and there you go. It straightens it right up, and now I'm going to lose everything. Sorry, Patty, I didn't save. So we're going to have to start over again here. I know you told me to save, and I didn't. We'll see how far we get. Oh, we're lucky. Okay, I'll save now. Okay. Yes. There we go. Get back up to full screen here. We didn't lose too much. We lost all our satin stitches. No giggling, Mona. Okay, we'll look at the questions here quick before we go back to that. Switching directions, does that help with the pull? I don't know if it helps so much, but if I can switch directions once in a while. Our first layer we went around clockwise, and now this layer I'm going back around the other way. Sometimes I think it helps. I'm not sure if it does or not. And somebody asked about copying and pasting. I wouldn't copy and paste these going around, because you want to make sure that your bars, your up and down bars, are going over these 2 circles of run stitches. And I think if I tried to group a bunch of these and copy and paste and move them around, I'm not sure that I would have those covered, and it might be more fiddling around with the angle than just going around and placing each bar. And yes, I find that when I'm moving edit nodes and trying to change the angles, that's when I'll have crashes the most. Okay, now we have to go back and select all of and okay. Okay, I like doing it this way better. There's certain things I like to do in the film strip, and then sometimes I just feel more comfortable right on the design grabbing stuff like this. Missed one. Okay. Gonna change them to our satin border. And there's a couple that I missed. Grab that one. And if I click satin border again, there we go. And see, there's our funny one with the little hook on it. So I'm going to do a quick save before we go in and play with that one. But I'm going to go into my properties and reduce the width. 0.9 is what I found worked good for this set. And you may find that something else works better for you. Lace takes a lot of test stitching. You do what you think is good, and then you need to stitch it out and see what it looks like. And only change, if you find that maybe these bars here are not heavy enough, or if they're too heavy. Restitch it out again and see if that works better. Stitch outs are your best thing to teach you how something works, and even just looking at someone else's lace and watching it stitch out. I know it takes extra time and extra stabilizer and stuff like that, but in the long run it's really worth it. So let's see. Okay, this is where I usually have problems, when I get way up in my magnification, but I need to see what I'm doing. And this is the one. It's got the little hook on it. Right click, edit outline mode. We've got a whole bunch of extra nodes in there, so I'm going to get rid of those right away. I'm just right clicking on it, and this little thing comes up. I can delete it. Now this one won't let me. That's my end one. It won't let you delete the end ones. So I need to grab this other one and delete it. If I click on this one, the arrows come back, and I can snap it down into position, and look at that. It really doesn't like to do that for me. Okay, now we're gonna go into view, edit. I'm gonna select all my satin borders. And I know it's gonna select my inside ones and this one. I don't want to change this big one, so I'm gonna hold my control key and click on it, and that will deselect that one. The rest of these, we're changing them all the same. So I'm going to go space bar, 0.9, 0.9 on my density. I'm going to click OK. There we go. And we're going to try a new plan here. I'm going to go back up again. A little, not quite so big. Outline view. And I'm going to try my edit. Delete that one. I'm just going to move this one down to the middle and move this one over a little bit. And I'm going to call that good. Going to generate, see what it looks like. There, now it's nice and straight across the top. Go back out to full screen. And this is what we have so far. I see our density didn't change. Do a quick save. There we go. Okay, when I had all of these selected, the density didn't change on them, so we're going to want to change that back. So I need to go through, select them all again. Like I said, doing lace can be very tedious when you've got a lot of little pieces with something like this. Come on. Here we go. Okay, my space bar. I'm going to go into satin, and I want to change my density. I want to loosen that up. There we go. Okay. Okay, now, well, we would finish this all the way around the way we did. We would end up here. Depending on where we ended up, top or bottom, we would have to adjust our in and out points so we could get here and do our satin border around here. The circle that I made with the run, I would select that to make my cover stitch here, because I want to have something. I got to have a satin that's going to cover all of these and hold them all together. So while I have that selected, I'm going to copy and paste. And get down here. Oops. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to turn it into a satin border. For something like this, when you're just doing a lot of circles, a satin border works fine. If you start getting into something with lots of points in it, then you're probably going to want to use one of the regular satin tools. So this is kind of wide. I'm going to go in my space bar and change my line width. And I'm going to change that to a 2. There we go. So now that part is going to hold the top half of this first row of circle of bars and the bottom half of our second circle of bars. Now we just need to, we would have to, let me select this, we would have to travel back up here. Whoops, undo that, whatever I moved. We take our line tool and travel, following right on top of that bar that would be right there. And then we would continue with our border. Now, I showed you the 2 types of borders that I did. One was to just create a scalloped area all the way around, and then I just did 2 layers of the quick lace. I made another border around, or a satin border around the outside edge, and that held everything together. Then we had to have one more satin border in here. Another way that you could do this, go up to 400. Another way to do this would be to take your line tool, start where you left off, and make a scallop and stop. Do another one and stop. You have to stop on the end of each one of these and make sure it is into this circle so it's catching. Okay, we'll just do that many for now. They're a little crooked. I'm going to select all of those, and I'm going to change them to a satin border. We're going to change the settings on that. We don't want that quite as wide. I'm going to go with 1.7. And then This is going to be outside. I'd like to do a little extra underlay when I am on the outside when we have something like this. So I would go into my settings one more time and I would go to underlay, and I already have the zigzag set, and I'm going to add center with that also. So that's just going to go back and forth an extra time, building up just a little bit more base for your satin stitches to go over the top of. So you could continue going all the way around doing this. Then once you got to the end and finished that, you would come back here. You would select this circle. Select that circle. There we go. Hit your space bar, and I would also change that into a satin border. Change that width, probably a little smaller than the two inside ones, probably a 1.5. And generate. And that should have ended up where did it go? I'm going to move it to the bottom. I can do that by selecting it in the film strip, right click on that, and I can move it down to the bottom. Generate. I'll change that a different color so you can see that then that is catching the bottoms of all your little scallops and will hold them in, and it will hold these bars in. Sorry, I'm being kind of long-winded here. Let me check questions quick, and we'll save this quick before it disappears on us. Show how I did the outside scallop. Okay. Ah, okay. Thank you, Jeannie. I forgot to copy and paste that last satin. That's why I couldn't find it in the film strip. Could you copy and paste the scallops? Well, let's try and see what happens. If I take this one, I copy and paste, so I've got it there. I have to move it, but then it's not right. So either I have to go out less than 400. You can adjust it by pulling on the corner and try and get it just right. So you got it covered each way. Let's go back up again. Which is kind of tricky to get it just right. Or you can copy and paste. Before you move it, click on it and move this, hopefully till you find the center. And grab a corner. Oops, I copied and pasted the wrong thing, didn't I? I'm going to grab that and bring it about the center. So we have our center rotation point here. And then you could move it around. But still, it's a little off. You'd want to maybe move it up because it was a little low, because you didn't You have to get that center point just right. So it's actually easier to just go along and make them. Oh, here's an idea. I had never thought of that. Try making one scallop and then using the super align tool to create them all the way around the circle. You'd have to figure out how many you needed and put that number in there and do that. That's a possibility. Okay. Well, I think that's probably all the farther that I'm going to go on this design. Once I finished all of my lace parts of it, and I would probably test stitch that to make sure that I didn't want to make any changes to it. Then I would go ahead and just digitize this flower right on top of there. When I do a design on top of the lace like this, I leave the underlay. I do not remove underlay from that design because if you think about it, this loose fill takes the place of your fabric because the stabilizer eventually is going to be washed away. So you want to make sure that you leave some type of underlay under your design that you're putting on top of fast lace like this. Would I adjust the density of the top design? No, I don't. I would just digitize it like a regular design and put it right on top of this lace. I hope this all gave you some ideas to try practicing with lace. Like I said, it's really not very hard. It's just lines and satin, and you have to play with it a little bit to get the look that you want. Lots of test stitching. Thanks, everyone. I've enjoyed doing the webinars. I'm glad Holly's going to be able to come back and get going at them again. I always, no matter how long I've been digitizing, I always learn something from the webinars that she does. I enjoy attending every one of them that I can.
Hi, I'm Larry. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was recorded during a live webinar that Holly taught some of her students for digitizing. At this point, she's finished the lesson that she had planned to teach, and for the next 20 or 30 minutes, probably, she'll go on and answer random questions from her students during the live webinar. I'm going to cut those off, and I'm going to take those and turn them into little video shorts to put here on our YouTube channel later. But for now, you've got this lesson, and if you enjoyed it, learned something, please give it a thumbs up. That helps our rankings with YouTube. Also, if you'd like a copy of the software that Holly's using so that you can digitize along with her, we can get you a 30-day trial that's fully functional if you just go to www.trygenerations.com www.trygenerations.com, and we'll give you all the details there. Thanks for watching.